Parsha, we have the mitzvah of, it's the mitzvah which Rashi quotes, the first Rashi in the whole Torah, right? Remember, the first Rashi in the whole Torah says, right? If you want, we should learn the first Rashi in the whole Torah. Let's turn back, hold the place, and let's see what Rashi will describe. You remember that? Rashi quotes this mitzvah. Rashi calls this the first mitzvah.
This was the first one they were given. Exodus.
Rashi quotes this as the first one, although we have Bris Milah given, and we have Pruvu, that one should have children, and we have maybe you shouldn't eat from the Gid Hanasha, the sinew. Those three mitzvahs are mentioned. But Rashi, look at the first Rashi in the whole Torah. Turn back to page 1, page 2. Rashi asks, why do we start off the Torah with the whole story of Bereshis, with the whole story of Adam and Chava? Amar, first Rashi, Bereshis. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, there was no need lahaskal es Torah. Really, where should we have started the Torah from? Ella me'achodesh hazeh lachem. From hachodesh hazeh lachem, which is, that is this verse right here, right? Hachodesh hazeh lachem means this month is yours. This is the new month. So it should have really told us about how do we bless the new moon, when do we bless the new moon, when should we make a new month, and etc. When do we make a leap year? So Rashi says that's the first commandment. So why do we have the whole Parshas Bereshis here? Why do we have the whole story with Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Yosef? We should have just started right here, HaChodesh Hazel Lachem, which we'll see in this week's Parsha. Right? So, right, you see, Rashi even quotes this. Oh, yeah, good. So, Rashi asks that. So, Rashi says, so why, right? Shehi mitzvah rishayna. That's the first mitzvah, the first commandment that we have. Shenestavu b'Yisrael, that the Jews were given. Umatam, and what is the reason? Pasach b'Bereshis. So, why did we say all of the whole Parsha of Bereshis, the whole Sefer, the whole book of Bereshis? So he says the answer is to teach us that it was Hashem who made the world, and Hashem made everything, and therefore if we will have Eretz Yisrael, if we will conquer Eretz Israel, so the non-Jews might say, well, it's really ours. So now we have the answer is that Hashem created the world, and He created Eretz Yisrael, and He made it, and He wants to give it to whoever He sees fit, whoever's doing His will, and therefore He gave it to you with His will, and He's taking it from you with His will. And therefore He wanted to say the whole Bereshis that Hashem made the whole world, and therefore it's His to do with as He sees fit. Okay, but that's why we said all that. But in truth, the Torah is here to give us commandments also. So the first commandment is HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem. Let's see the pasuk here. Parshas Boy, Perek Yud Beis, which is page 348. So here it says, Vayomer Hashem el Moshe, right, page 348, verse 1. Vayomer Hashem el Moshe ve'el Aaron. Hashem told Moshe and Aaron, B'Eretz Mitzrayim leimar. In Eretz Mitzrayim, they were still here. Now we're holding right as they're about to leave. So here Hashem told them the following words: HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodashim. This Chodesh, this month will be to you the head of the months. Rishainu l'chadshei hashana. This is the first month to all of the months. So literally we know which month is the first month to all of the months. So according to this, the first month will be Nisan. Right? So Nisan is the first month, and then you go from there. Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, Avel, Tishrei, Cheshvan, Kislev, Teves, Shvat, Adar. So we're holding now Shvat, second to last month, and then we'll come around to Nisan, which is when they left Mitzrayim. So that's what the pasuk says. This month is the head of the month. It's the first month.
It says
Rishon. So first it says HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh. Yeah, no, start at the beginning of pasuk Beis. HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem. This Chodesh, this month is to you Rosh Chadashim. Rosh is the head of the month, and also it shall also be the first Rishon.
the real Rosh Hashanah. The real.
Yeah, right. Now, and Rashi explains that Hashem showed Moshe how the moon should look for it to be called a new moon. Chodesh Hazeh, he pointed to him that month. This Chodesh, this moon. Okay, that's the idea here, that we have Rosh Chodesh. Now, based on this whole idea, so this comes along to be the first mitzvah. So if you look at the Minchas Chinuch, we always say the Chinuch was one of the Rishonim. He took right after the Rambam, and he counted all the mitzvos. And here he actually counts
all the mitzvahs?
Yes, all the mitzvos. There's 3 volumes of this officially. And here he counts as mitzvah Dalit. He counts it as the 4th mitzvah, Kiddush HaChodesh. Kiddush HaChodesh is to bless the new moon, which is not. It starts really from the court. When should we make a new month?
This is the sefer that the father wrote for the son. No, this is the printer one.
Oh, I'm not sure if it was written for a son.
There was one Rabbi. It's almost like a name. He doesn't have a name. There wasn't. There's discussion on who wrote it. Was it Rabbi Levi or something for his son who was bar mitzvah? So he would know the reason of the mitzvah.
I don't think so.
No.
We'll have to check it up, but see if you could backtrack. But I don't think it's from him. So he writes. Now it's interesting how he expounds that it's a mitzvah. He writes actually that the mitzvah is to be mekadesh, to sanctify. Right, Kiddush HaChodesh means to sanctify the months, and also La'aver Shanim. You have to also make the years a leap year sometimes. Why? Why do you have to make a year a leap year? What's the reason?
There's not enough days in each month.
Right, because there's not enough days like in the solar year, and therefore what the problem will be.
Pesach was the problem.
And what's the problem with Pesach? What's the problem?
Spring 15th day.
Because it says one pasuk that you should make it. Very good. Irving is quoting a pasuk in Devarim that says you should make Pesach bechodesh ha'aviv. Aviv is the autumn, so be in the autumn time. So therefore you have to make sure Pesach always falls out in the autumn time. So the problem is it will constantly be falling behind and off track. And Sukkot is also supposed to be at a certain time of year. Sukkot should be at the time of the gathering of the crop. So we have to keep these 2 festivals at the right time. So therefore, that's why there's a mitzvah to also to proclaim a leap year. And when we proclaim a leap year, then we will say that there will be 2 months of Adar. Right? You'll have Shvat. This month is Shvat. Today is the 2nd day of Shvat. And then we'll have next month will be Adar, and then the next month will be Adar Beis. So that's these are the 2 ideas that are encased inside this mitzvah of Kiddush HaChodesh, to sanctify the months.
What is the thing that we we do Kiddush, sanctify Shabbat? What is the specific act that we do to sanctify?
Excellent question. What is the act that is Kiddush HaChodesh? What do you mean you sanctify the month? How do you sanctify the month? Right, so excellent question, and this is actually the main part of what the mitzvah is all about. What's the mitzvah all about? And the answer is that you have to have a court full of people who have the right smicha, official smicha, and there's wise men who know the whole Torah. And if we don't have nowadays that level of having the smicha. So we don't do that now. I'll tell you what we do soon. But you need them, and they have to. They're sitting at their table, and someone should come in and say, "I saw the new moon." Two people should come in, two witnesses, and if two witnesses say we saw the new moon, so the court, they have to interrogate them, they have to make sure that they're right. Maybe they're making up a story, maybe they have ulterior motives, or they just, they want to do something not so good, so we have to interrogate them. How did you see the moon? Was it facing this way? Or the Mishnah speaks about this in the Rosh Hashanah, Masechtas Rosh Hashanah. It speaks about exactly how they interrogate them. And when they finally interrogated them and saw that they were telling the truth, then they would say the words Mekudesh, Mekudesh. They would proclaim those two words, Mekudesh, Mekudesh. And there, that was the sanctification of the new month, and then it became Rosh Chodesh. That was the order. They would come into the court, into Bezdin, and they would see that they're telling the truth. So once you have two witnesses to say it, so two witnesses already in Jewish law is as good as it gets. Two witnesses is like 100. It doesn't get better than two. Trey, Kameya.
So
Trey is two,
they have the two
Kameya.
witnesses and they report to the judges, and they say.
So why is there 11 months?
What do they report? They say we saw the new moon, right?
But who are these witnesses? They have to be special people.
They have to be Jews who are kosher Jews.
Why the
Kosher
testimony,
Jews.
that's why the court, the Bet Din asks them the questions to make sure that
You guys have good eyes, number one.
Good memories.
Good memory, good eyes.
Yeah,
Probably
so,
farmers.
Well,
it's happening almost simultaneously. They see it and then they go to the Bet Din.
You don't need such a good memory because they're going to come right away.
They must have a specific location to go and look for the new moon. Is there a specific hill? It has to be in Jerusalem. It's proclaimed from Jerusalem. Is it not?
Yes, right. It would probably be, but anyone all over, like you could look outside and see the new moon.
Yeah, but it's not the new moon until it's.
Right, but you could say I saw the new moon, and you could run into the court, and you could have a part of this mitzvah. Okay, and that's how he actually reads into the verse that this chodesh is Rosh Chodashim. He says this means to say that if you will see HaChodesh Rosh Chodashim, what does it mean HaChodesh? HaChodesh literally means a month, but he says Chidusha. When you see the newness, Chidush is the newness of the Levana, of the new moon. Tikveu lachem Rosh Chodesh. You shall then proclaim it Rosh Chodesh. So that's how he translates the words. HaChodesh hazel lachem. HaChodesh, the Chodesh, the Chidush. Chidush is the newness of the moon. It will be for you Rosh Chodesh. You should proclaim Rosh Chodesh. So once they proclaim Rosh Chodesh, then it's already in the stone, in the books. It's now Rosh Chodesh Shvat, right? Or if it would be Nisan, right? It has a lot of ramifications, right? That means in 14 days, it's going to be Pesach, right? Etc. Or, I'll give you another example. If your birthday, right? When's your birthday? Let's say your birthday is, I'll give you an example. Jonathan, when's your birthday?
November 21st.
November 21st. Let's just pick a number out of the hat. Let's say it would be Rosh Chodesh Shvat. Right? Today was Rosh Chodesh Shvat. But let's make believe your birthday is Rosh Chodesh Shvat, or someone Rosh Chodesh Shvat. Now, let's say the person he's 12 years old, and he's about to have his birthday. He's waiting for the new moon to come, because the day that the new moon comes is going to be his birthday. His birthday is Rosh Chodesh Shvat. So he's waiting, and finally, him and his twin brothers see the new moon. Well, two brothers can't be witnesses, but you have another boy whose also birthday is on Rosh Chodesh Shvat. So they want to run into court. Is that okay for them to come to court?
No, they can't.
They have an ulterior motive.
No, they're not. They haven't been bar mitzvah yet.
Excellent. Says Mike, a beautiful answer. there are qualifications. Who could say testimony? You can't have anyone say testimony. You need to be a kosher Jew. You need to be kosher in terms of, number one, you haven't done anything wrong, any aveira. You did something wrong, you have to do teshuvah, you have to repent. Just like if you're a witness at a wedding, right? They always call 2 witnesses for a wedding. You have to be kosher witnesses there too. So they always say if you get called up to be a witness, you got to do teshuvah fast. You got to do repentance quickly. So you got to be a kosher witness, or else a witness has to be a kosher Jew. Those are the qualifications, right? You need to be, can't be a relative to the other witness. So that's some of the ideas here. You can't have anything to gain, right? That's some of the people who are not kosher. So Mike is saying it can't be a child. A child is not kosher. It has to be an adult to say testimony. A man to say testimony. And when does he become a man? Says Mike, well, when he's 13 years old. We know that's when a man becomes an adult. So here, he needs to be 13 years old. His birthday is on Rosh Chodesh Shvat.
Well, who says he's 13? He's going to be 16.
No, I want to take a case of a person who's 12 years old, and 11 months, and 29 days. Can we take such an example? Can we pick such an example? He's about to turn bar mitzvah. Ready?
Yeah, you can't have a child determined on the day he becomes a man.
One thing, so this is where it's getting tricky. Here's where it's getting tricky. The 2 boys are 12 years old and 11 months and 29 days, and they're waiting for Rosh Chodesh Shvat to come along because that's their birthday. Now they see the new moon. So Mike says, well, they can't say testimony because they're a child. The child is invalid to say testimony. Right? Am I quoting you correctly?
Yes.
Now,
and a woman.
Or a woman, right. So now the question is like this. But, let's say you accept them to say testimony. Let's say you say, well listen, the court listens to what the 2 boys say. So the court says, oh, they saw the new moon. Mekodesh, Mekodesh. They say those 2 words. Mekodesh, Mekodesh. Now it becomes Rosh Chodesh. So it becomes Rosh Chodesh Shvat. Right? Let's say it's already it was today. They came in the middle of the day. Right? Let's say 2 o'clock today they came in, the Bezin said Mekudesh. That means that it was Shvat, it was Rosh Chodesh Shvat from when it comes out. Right? What would you call last night's date? When you daven Mariv, what would you call the date, the Hebrew date? Rosh Chodesh. So last night was Rosh Chodesh Shvat, because the night precedes the day.
Right. But you don't know that till after the fact.
Right, you don't know until after the fact, but after the fact, then you can go backwards and say last night was also Rosh Chodesh. So now the question is like this: Could you make it that those kids were really bar mitzvahed last night? They really already turned 13 last night. Because, right?
No, because the physical doesn't really have anything to do with it.
It's not Rosh Chodesh.
That's right.
So until they proclaim it. It's
That's true.
a moment of sanctification.
So
That's true. You are right. You are right. They have to proclaim it. But my question is, once they proclaim it, they proclaim.
Retroactive? You mean
You're going, yeah, that's what they say, retroactive.
So the night comes with the day. So that means the night was Rosh Chodesh also, right? Because what would you call the night, right? Yesterday was 29. So what was the night?
30.
Right? Was the night the 30th?
Or the first, yeah.
Or the first? So there was no 30th day. So the night was the first. So they were bar mitzvah last night. So it comes out that they could say the testimony. Once they say the testimony, then they turn into an adult, and then they can say the testimony, which makes them an adult. Which means it's a cycle. Once they say testimony, that means that it's Shvat, that means they're bar mitzvah, and that means last night they were bar mitzvah, that means they said the testimony today, they were adults. That's the question here. Do you say that?
No.
That's one side. Or, what do you think, David?
No, because I was thinking when they proclaimed it, how do I say it? They weren't 13 yet still, like when they were
right.
saying it.
So I think you were saying this also before. The other side of the coin is maybe not. Maybe you can't get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
Right? You have the wagon before the horse. because how could they ever say the testimony? We can never accept them to say testimony, because the minute they come in and say we want to say testimony, we say no, you're 12. You're not an adult yet.
That's right.
So we can't listen to you in order to start the whole ball rolling, in order to hear, in order to say it's Rosh Chodesh, in order to make it yesterday Rosh Chodesh. They can never start the ball rolling. So the Minchas Chinuch, he asks this as a query, and he says he's not sure. It's like a very intriguing question. He says it's very deep. He says he's not 100% sure about this whole question, and because of this, what he says, it's interesting how he comes out because of that question. He comes out and says that it's up to the court. I have to look more into this, but he says it's up to the court to decide what they want to do, which is a very interesting idea that he says. But I'll read you how he says it.
Okay, so in any case, we're talking about the Shtadlut versus
Here we go.
So there's a variety of levels of notice, and the levels are given by various recipients and various
Okay, here we go.
the kings of Israel through various times. With David, it says that he's praying before.
Yeah. So he says like this. He says
He prays to God.
nistapakti. He says nistapakti comes from the word. What's the root of nistapakti? See if you could see the root. The root is shorish. He says suffix. He says I don't know. I'm not sure. So therefore he says in the end that
we go from there to another king. I think it's Yehoash. Prays.
yeah, as of now he doesn't say it clear how to rule in this case.
To help him.
That's one idea. Then he says another idea. That's just one thing to think about. Let me give you another case. Next case. Next case is two kosher witnesses come in this morning. Two kosher witnesses. And they want to say, we saw the new moon. Now, they're in the waiting room, and come along these two other boys. And these two boys, they're waiting to get bar mitzvah also. And Rosh Chodesh Shvat, they're going to become bar mitzvah. So the only thing is, what they're doing in the waiting room is that they hold that the two people who think they say they saw the new moon are really liars. Right? So the two adults come in, say, we saw the new moon, and these two kids run into Bezdin behind them and say, no, you didn't. You were with us in the gym. How could you say you saw the new moon? Right? This is called, in Hebrew, Hazama. Remember that word? Hazama. Hazama means we say you were with us. And since you were with us, you could not have seen the new moon when you say you saw, because you were with us in the gym. So I just want to tell you, this is a beautiful, wondrous rule called Hazama. Eidim, they are Eidim, witnesses, Zomimin. Eidim Zomin. And the rule is that we believe the second pair. The Torah teaches us that we believe the second pair.
I assume that if they wouldn't have delayed it if they knew why. Because if it was sooner, they would have probably come because they have an interest in having the new moon.
No, so the two kids, they say, we didn't see the new moon. We don't know about when the new moon came. All we know is that these two adults, they were with us in the gym at that time when they say they saw it. And therefore they could not have seen the new moon.
Testimony shouldn't be allowed.
Who's? The kids?
Yeah, they're not even, if you don't believe their testimony on the moon, why would you believe their testimony?
Good. So you shouldn't believe the testimony. Right. So good. So what Mike is saying is, so you can't listen to the kid's testimony. So what do? You listen to the adult's testimony. So the adults say, we saw the new moon. That means, what is Bezdin going to say? Klerosh Chodesh, Makodesh, Makodesh. Kodesh Kodesh means that today is Rosh Chodesh Shvat. The two boys now are older boys now they turn 13. So now they say, okay, we want to tell you testimony that we saw today. We even saw it, right? We saw it last night when it was Rosh Chodesh already. We were already 13, so we saw it. We were adults, and we want to tell you what we saw. These two men were with us. They were with us. And that means that they turned the first pair into Edom Zomamin, falsified witnesses, and we give those witnesses lashes. The first pair for saying false testimony. We'll have to go into this when we get up to that specific parsha, but that specific parsha in Parshas Shoftim states that the Torah says we believe the second pair more than the first pair. We'll have to go into the ideas why, but that's the rule. Edom Zomin, we believe the second pair, and therefore the little two boys were 13 now. They just turned 13. They say that the first pair are false. What happens if we make them false? So now what happens? What's
If you make the first pair false?
Yes. Now what happens?
So then it's not Rosh Chodesh. You have to come back.
Means you have to, the judges
You need the witnesses to come and make real testimony.
So it's not Rosh Chodesh anymore.
Yeah.
Because what they said was false.
Right.
We discount their
So the
testimony.
judges say, believe the witnesses, claim Rosh Chodesh. And then suddenly, an hour later, these kids come in and say that they're false witnesses. At that moment, it's not Rosh Chodesh anymore.
So the truth is, I want to just tell you one thing. The truth is, there is one rule I have to tell you. The rule is that whenever Bezin says, goes. And therefore, even if they make a mistake, it's Rosh Chodesh.
Oh, it's on.
Because
You can't take it off.
Right. Because it says, Elu Moadei Hashem. These are the Moadim of Hashem.
Even if it's under false pretense.
Right. Asher Tikru Aisam b'Mayadam. It says these are. We say this, by the way. You'll look in your siddur on Yom Tov. The Kiddush for Yom Tov is different, and we say this verse. The verse is Eile Moadei Hashem. These are the Moadim, the Yom Tov of Hashem. Asher Tikru, which you shall proclaim, Osam them b'Moadam. You shall proclaim them in their times. So the Gemara learns out from those words that even if they make a mistake, even if they are forced or something happens and they make a mistake and they proclaim it Rosh Chodesh, it's already in the new moon and it doesn't go back.
So what happens when, because if I remember, the Beit Din doesn't sit every day.
They don't sit at night. At night we don't proclaim Rosh Chodesh.
Right, but they don't sit every day, did they? Because there could be a couple of days lapse and before the witness could come in and say it, right?
You think they would
No,
be at
not
night?
around Rosh Chodesh time.
every day.
You're thinking of the Gemara, the first Mishnah in Ksubis. Certain courts for certain things, but in terms of the new moon, it was every day.
But the new moon is easier to see at night.
You want to bring me a Mishnah
The Beit Din has regular office hours.
I wouldn't know where to find
tomorrow, Rosh Hashanah.
I would.
It's true.
Are you a lawyer?
You don't work overtime, I guess.
I would be there for.
No, overtime. They're like, 10 to 3.
Yeah.
Gemara.
What was that?
What happens when it's cloudy? Like, it's the winter time, it's really heavy cloud, rain, and there's no way that anybody's going to see it for a few days. They do.
That's a good question.
Well, they must be able to count, at least from the last time, and say, okay, well, the time has passed. They can probably still proclaim it based on this day. So much time has passed.
That's a good point.
From the night before, they see. And then the next day they go to the Beit Din and say, yeah.
So he wants to know, let's say that...
cloudy.
No,
it's cloudy.
Okay, so this is a good point. I want to look into this because it's good to think about. Nowadays, what we do, nowadays we don't have the court with smicha, so what do we have? We have that Hillel instituted the calendar. He had smicha, and he proclaimed the new moon for all generations because he knew that we wouldn't have this court, and therefore Hillel made the calendar, and he said Makudish for each month that we have nowadays. That's how we have Rosh Chodesh each month without a court. Now, that's the idea how we have it nowadays. But I want to share with you along these lines a Mishnah, a beautiful Mishnah, about how we see that whatever Bezdin says, it sticks, it goes. And there's a beautiful story in one of the Mishnayos, to just find that Mishnah. Yeah, here we go. The Mishnah says, there were two people who came in, and they said, we saw the new moon in the east in the morning. And what happened was there was a whole dispute about this. And they said the rabbis were arguing, and they said maybe they're false witnesses. So the Rabbi Gamliel said, I'm accepting these witnesses. And that was the case there. So what happened is that there was an argument basically. But they said Mekudesh. They said today this should be the new moon. So what happened is there was a discrepancy between two of the tzaddikim when should be Rosh Chodesh. But they proclaimed Rosh Chodesh on that day. But the Rabbi Yeshua was arguing and said no, it should be the next day. And there's a big difference if it's today or tomorrow. Right? Let's assume we're talking in Rosh Chodesh, the Chodesh of Tishrei. You hear what the difference will come out to be if Rosh Chodesh is on Sunday or Monday. When will Yom Kippur be? 10 days later, it will be either, let's say, Wednesday or Thursday. So there was so Rabbi Gamliel said to Rabbi Yeshua, I want you to come to me on the day that comes out on your calendar to be Yom Kippur. I want you to walk to me with your walking stick and your money belt. So he came, and at the end of the day, he went to him, and he said that Rabbi Gamliel, he did it, even if he made a mistake. Elam Mayadei Hashem. These are the Yom Tovim of Hashem, Mikroi Kodesh, which the proclamations of holy days, Asher Tikru Oisam, that you call out, Bein Bizmanan, Bein Shalom Bizmanan, whether you have the right time, whether you have the wrong time. Eli Mayadais El Elu. Hashem says, God says, these are my Yom Tovim. These are the holidays when the court proclaims, whether it's in the wrong time or right, but it says Asher Tikru Oisam, you proclaim them. And therefore, Tikra'u means plural. The Bezdin proclaims it. Whenever the Bezdin does it, they're right. And therefore, that's why he told them, you have to come to me on that day. It's not Yom Kippur. You think it's Yom Kippur. According to your calculations, you might be right, but you're wrong, because whenever the court says Makodesh, that's Rosh Chodesh. There's nothing to talk about. Okay, so that's the Mishnah here, which is very beautiful. And since he came to him, Rabbi Yeshua came to him, Rabbi Gamliel gave him a kiss on his head and said, you should come in peace. You're my Rebbe and you're my Talmud. You're my Rebbe, you're wiser than me, so you're my Rebbe. But you're my Talmud that you accepted my words. And he gave him a kiss because he accepted his words. So that's the Mishnah, where we see this idea that it works. However, the Bezdin happens, it's called B'di'evet. You ever heard of the word B'di'evet? B'di'evet means if it happened. Avad means if he did it. B'di'evet, if it happened that they did it, it works. Which means you should, maybe l'chatchila, you should try not to, but if it happened, B'di'evet, then it works. That's the basis from this, this is the halacha. Okay. Now, so let's go back to our case here of the two pairs of people who are coming out to Bezdin. We have the two adults and the two kids who are 12. And the two kids, right, and they're telling Bezdin before even Bezdin says anything. Bezdin's listening and they're hearing what everyone's saying in the waiting room. So now, what should Bezdin do? Which means, if Bezdin says, we're listening to the two adults, and they listen to them, and they say, Mekudesh, today's Rosh Chodesh Shvat. It's Rosh Chodesh Shvat. And even if the kids come in, the two 12-year-olds, now they're 13, they say, we saw them, they were with us in the gym, so they couldn't have said this testimony, and therefore they're wrong, they're Adam Zoman, and they become disqualified. They do become disqualified. And they even become disqualified retroactively from yesterday, because that's when they were in the gym. And therefore they really could not have said this testimony But it's still Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh sticks. Because it's already up to Bezdin, and Bezdin already proclaimed it, so that's it. Or, I'll give you another example. If the two kids come along and say, you two adults, you two witnesses, we saw you were gambling. If you gamble, that also disqualifies you from being a witness. So they say, we saw you gambling yesterday. You can't be a witness today. So again, that would be the same idea. They come along, they say, we saw you gambling. They could disqualify them from being witnesses. So today, if they see them on the night, last night, which is already their birthday, once we accept the adult's testimony, today's Rosh Chodesh, last night was Rosh Chodesh, that means they're 13. So they could disqualify these witnesses as being gamblers from last night. And therefore, but they can't turn back the clock.
The mitzvah of being a witness is now removed from them, but it's still Rosh Chodesh.
It's still Rosh Chodesh. It's still Rosh Chodesh, right? It doesn't take away...
What's gambling?
What's gambling?
Yeah.
Gambling is...
you call me a gambler, what is that? What did I do?
I didn't call you, not you.
What I'm asking you say this person's a gambler? What has he done?
If they gamble, right?
What?
I'll read you the
He played
Mishnah.
dice, he put $1 on his football team? That's a gambler, $1.
So let's get a Mishnah.
I'll be honest, I like to put $20 on a football game. Am I disqualified from being a witness in the Beit Din?
I'll tell you the big problem.
I do with a friend. I don't go and go to the casino or anything.
I'll tell you the big problem with gambling. The big problem is that you don't think you're going to lose.
No. I totally accept the chance that I'm going to lose. The reason why I do it is to make what I'm watching interesting, more interesting.
Yeah, but I'll tell you something. If you think you're going to win, or if your friend thinks he's going to win,
Yeah.
so he really doesn't plan on giving you that money
Why?
because he thinks he's going to win. He bet on it, but he doesn't really think he's going to lose. So he doesn't really have in mind to give you that money.
Well, the thing is, if he doesn't give me the money, then we'll never have another bet again.
That may be true.
And that's like we accept that equally between each other.
That may be true, but between you and I, in the back of his head, he doesn't really want to give you that money.
Of course not.
He thinks he's going to win. He knows.
Well, of course.
He knows that the Cowboys
hopes
are going to
win.
He doesn't. He believes. He believes. Not hopes.
He believes.
So if he believes, then he really doesn't plan on giving you that money.
I heard that if you buy lottery tickets, that halakhically, whether this is true or not, you can buy one lottery ticket because you can say, if Hashem wants me to win, I'm going to win in one ticket. But if you buy more than one ticket, then you're playing the odds. You're saying, I'm increasing my chances by buying more. That means you're not really equating it as Hashem being the one who's going to decide whether you win or not.
Interesting.
You buy one ticket, you can say, if Hashem wants me to win, I'm going to win on that one ticket. But if you buy more than one, then you're gambling.
I think
saying, Hashem's not an issue. It's the more tickets I buy, the more chances I have.
When I think of gambling is when you are wagering more than you can afford, and you are gambling with your life then, and it's becoming like an illness and an addiction. But when you're doing a very, very small amount,
That's a separate problem.
or it doesn't even have to be money. You could do laundry for the other person. Who knows?
No, I hear it. That's a separate problem, that you're putting your life in danger. But I'm saying even if you're not putting your life in danger. But there's an idea here of gezel. It could be stealing. Because you're taking his money, but he doesn't want to give you the money. He never had in mind to give you that money. He thought he's for sure going to win. So when he said, yeah, let's bet, he knew for sure he's going to win. It was just he was going to take your money. So therefore it's a problem of stealing when you bet.
I don't understand that.
Let me read the Mishnah. I'll find you the Mishnah. It should be in Rosh Hashanah. This is all in this parak of Rosh Hashanah. Here you go. Elohein hapsulim. These are the people who are ineligible as witnesses. Hamesachik bekuvya. The first person is someone mesachik bekuvya. Literally, they say a dice player. A dice player.
That's what I was thinking right away. Dice. Gambler.
Or someone who lends money with ribbis, with interest. But let's go into this idea of the dice player. Let's see if that's the idea. This is so he says here that it's a professional gambler.
A professional gambler. That's a lot different than what I'm describing.
So this is there's two ideas.
Capri, you want to ride home? I'll be leaving soon. Do you want me to
She's supposed to come.
So
ride him?
She's supposed to come. Whatever.
Oh,
she'll
okay.
come.
Okay, well, can I give you a ride if nobody comes? Don't worry.
Alright.
So there's actually an argument about this. For one idea is that, first I just want to tell you that what I told you is what Rami Bar Chama says. Rami Bar Chama in the Gemara here says that even if you have another profession, but if you're gambling, so money won at gambling is considered stolen money, and the winner is a gazlan. He's a robber. Why? Because of what I'm telling you.
No, it's done between two consenting, responsible adults who are fully aware of the ramifications of their wager. That doesn't sound like stealing to me.
But let's say he doesn't.
And also, like the person hands you the money willingly. He doesn't even have to do it.
But he doesn't have the heart.
The stealing is if he doesn't hand you the money.
But he doesn't.
That's the stealing.
Does he give it to you with his full heart? That's the question. Maybe he doesn't really give it to you with the full heart. If you take something from someone but he doesn't really want to give it to you, that could be not. It's interest. This is one idea. If you take
you
it
could
from,
say that about any employer too, for any employee.
Why?
I'm stealing from my boss.
I mean, he owes the employee money, but does he do it with the whole heart? I don't know.
That's with the full heart. That's with the full. And even if he doesn't want to, but he knows that he's doing the right thing, he wants to give it to him. This is one idea. The other idea I'll tell you is from Reb Sheshas. He says that it only fits his profession, because he says if he doesn't have a good job, so he's not helping mankind, he's not helping to the maintenance of civilization, so he doesn't have any credibility.
What would that job be?
Professional gambler.
He doesn't have a good job.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So he's like an outcast.
Like the stock market guys, there's like a lot of millionaires on Wall Street, but
perfect example.
They just like
those guys are
gamblers.
Those guys are gamblers.
Professional gambling.
But that wouldn't be the problem. That's not a gambler.
Yes, it is.
Because he's saying a gambler is a person who doesn't have a real job, and therefore they're not like helping mankind. And therefore, since they're an outcast of civilization, they don't have credibility, and therefore what they will do is they won't feel embarrassed to take a bribe. The reason why they're invalid to be a witness is because they don't mind taking a bribe.
Yeah, there's a lot of people I hear that at the racetrack that, let's say Woodbine, they bet, and they're very good bettors on horses, and they make enough to get, they're able to win enough winnings to always basically provide for themselves.
That's a gambler for sure.
And so really, that would be that type of person.
Yes, you have to.
The professional poker players out there.
Yeah, that's right.
Who make a lot of money, and they contribute to society. They pay taxes, and they buy homes, and they buy clothes and food, and they're regular people. But you're saying that they're susceptible to a bribe.
So what I'm saying here is that there's an example of someone. The Gemara says someone who oichel b'shuk, someone who eats in the street. Right? You're not supposed to eat in the street. If you're able to, you should. Because why? What's the problem? So oichel b'shuk, he's daimel lekelev. He's comparable to a dog. He doesn't have embarrassment, and therefore we say, well, he's willing to eat while he's walking around in the public. Right? If you'll see, you'll never find a rabbi walking and eating, because you're not supposed to walk in the street. That's what you should sit down while you're eating. That's the first derech eretz. But the second thing is you shouldn't eat in public, in the street. So the idea is if he's willing to eat in the street, then he won't mind taking a bribe. That's the idea there. Same thing here. According to Reb Sheshas, if he's such a person who doesn't have a real job, which means you have to think about nowadays such a person who's a professional, maybe that would be different. It seems like he was someone who was he didn't have a professional job. He was an outcast. He bet a little.
A carny.
Or how about a person who inherited a lot of wealth and just didn't bother working because he's just living off
a trust fund
inheritance. He's not contributing to society.
That's true.
Doesn't have a job. He could be a little like.
Well, yeah, but the question, right? Okay, so the question is, someone who is such a person, but he's like an outcast. Let's say it's not so probable for such a person, but more probable of someone who doesn't have a job and he gets a few dollars and he bets, and he's not helping out society. He's not contributing to the maintenance. So such a person, he wouldn't be embarrassed to take a bribe, and that's why he's prohibited to say testimony, because we say he might have taken a bribe. On the other hand, the other idea is that maybe it's considered stolen money.
What about entertainment value? It's like you can't derive entertainment from betting on a football game. It's just like it's just like going to a movie. You pay the money and you go watch a film. But this is it's just the same idea.
So you have to. It's interesting. We have to think about it. Does he really want to give it to you? If he doesn't want to,
but he owes you.
He doesn't owe you. Maybe he owes you.
His word is worth something.
His word is right, but he gave you money which he doesn't want to give you. He doesn't.
But he was wrong.
He wants to win.
But he was wrong, and he said he was going to be right, and he wagered he would be right, but he was wrong, and he has to pay for that.
So the question is, did he really give you his word? He really didn't give you his word that he's going to pay you, because he really felt that he'll be right. He never thought he'd be wrong. He didn't plan on paying you. Maybe he don't even have his word. Okay, this is something to think
We can
about.
argue about this for a long time.
But in any event, that's the source. Those are the two ideas in a gambler. Either because it might be stolen money, or because he's such a low down person that maybe he doesn't mind taking a bribe. So they're both disqualified.
Now I feel bad.
You can do teshuvah before you're called to be the witness.
I'm gonna have to.
We'll start the 3 parts to teshuvah, 3 easy parts. Forget your regret. You say confession, and you take a
Mikvah?
No, you don't have to go to the mikvah. You just make a step that your future should be different. It has to be that you can't just do teshuvah. Okay, I'm not betting anymore, and then next Sunday when you have another football game, you'll bet. That's not teshuvah. It has to be that
To mean it.
Kabbalah. You have to make a Kabbalah, a acceptance on the future. So it's regret on the past. So in any event, you have to think on this. That's why I was saying. Let's say the 2 adults say testimony today is Rosh Chodesh. The 2 kids come in and say, really? So that means we're adults. These 2 adults that you see, they are gamblers. Last night there was a big game. They gambled. So therefore they're invalid to say testimony. Now, if Bezin already said Mekudesh, they said today it's a new moon, then it's already locked in.
So then what's the purpose of them calling them in Zoom? Because all you're doing is you're not allowed to embarrass either, and if it's not going to change the status of it being Rosh Chodesh or not, then all you're doing is embarrassing your witness.
Well, Adam Zoman, I have news for you. There's something that happens to an Adam Zoman.
Okay, bye.
You know what happens to Adam Zoman?
Okay, she's here. Okay, bye.
Adam Zoman is called, we do to them as they plan to do to them, to the first period. Which means, right, let's say 2 people come in and say that this guy owes his friend $50. And then we find out that they're false witnesses, they have to pay this guy $50. Which means they have to do to him what they planned to do.
But when it comes to, that makes sense, and I know it's in Torah. When it comes to what would be the measure when it comes to being a false witness for the moon?
So the Gemara speaks about your question.
When it comes to being
a false witness about the moon, the new moon. I mean, what?
I think lashes, you said.
Right. The answer to that is lashes. Right.
Lashes. Punitive damage.
Right. Similar to a case where they come in and tell a Kohen, right? I'm Yisrael, right? Irving Yisrael, right? You're a Levi?
He's going.
You're a Kohen.
He's a Kohen.
Oh yeah.
Okay, in that case, I have a live demonstration. Let's say they come in and we won't say about you. So, but let's say Reuven Cohen is a Kohen,
Right.
and 2 witnesses come in and say Reuven Cohen, he's not a Kohen. His mother was a Gerusha. She was a divorcee, and a Kohen can't marry a divorced lady, and therefore the child is not a valid Kohen. He's a chalal, an invalid Kohen. That's what they say in front of the court, and they try to disqualify Reuven Cohen from being a Kohen. And then another 2 witnesses come running in and say, no, you 2 witnesses are saying false testimony. You were with us in the gym last night. How could you say that? So what are you going to do now to these 2 witnesses who are lying? These Adam Zomamin. What are you going to do to them? Could you make them... They tried to make him into a chalal. They tried to make him into an invalid Kohen.
Well, if
They have to marry the widow.
Could you make them into an invalid Kohen?
I guess if they were Kohens, maybe.
If they were Kohen,
Yeah,
then you
yeah.
could make them into invalid Kohens. But let's say they're Yisrael. You can't make them into
For
invalid.
permanent status, they would be invalid?
Make them, okay.
Well, so the answer is we don't do that.
Banish.
We don't do that. We don't make them into a chalal because they might be a Yisrael. So therefore, on this is the second idea that Mike is saying, that we give them lashes.
Okay.
Where you can't do to them kasher zomam, what they plan to do, we give them the alternate punishment of lashes, and that is a degree of doing kasher zomam, as they plan, we do back to them. So therefore, that's the answer to your question. Why we still want to accept them into court, even though they already said Mekudesh, Mekudesh. We're not going to overturn the ruling, but we will do Kasha Zaman, which is a pasuk we're going to get to in Parsha Shoftim that says, "You shall do to them as they plan to do to that person." So therefore, the only question that you have to think about is if the court never accepted anyone's testimony yet, and they're listening, and they're hearing, and they hear the two kids talking and the two adults talking. And the two adults are saying, we're coming to speak about the new moon. And the two kids say, we're coming to say that you are a gambler, or you are with us. Then what should the court do? Should the court accept the adult's testimony and say Mekudesh, Mekudesh? I'm asking you now beforehand now. What should the court do? Or should they say, well, I'm not going to accept it, because the minute I accept it, I'm going to realize that they're false, because I have two people coming in after, two kids who are going to be adults, who are going to say that they were with us. And therefore, it's going to disqualify the whole testimony, and we don't want to make up a wrong ruling in the first place, so we're not going to declare it to be Rosh Chodesh today. What should you do in such a case?
You'd have to wait for two other witnesses, I guess.
So you're ruling like that side?
Maybe one will do.
One what?
One witness.
One, but
No, I guess it's not.
I'm disqualifying both of them. So this is the question, and the Minchas Chinuch says that he says that what you should do is you should accept the first two. At that time they're kosher edim, and there's a mitzvah for them to say. There's a mitzvah if you know of anything that happens, you have to say testimony. If you hear of someone as a crime, you have a mitzvah to say testimony. Parshas Vayikra, it states, "Im lo yagid." If you don't say over testimony, then that's a prohibition. So you have a mitzvah to say it if you're saying the truth. They have a mitzvah to accept it. So therefore, they should accept it, and then it's fine. Even though two other people might come later. But as we said before, if it happens, it happens, but it's already, the new moon is already the new moon. And therefore, it won't mess up anything. And at the time when we accepted these two witnesses, they were kosher. You could say, the court is allowed to say that it's Mekudesh, and it might come out that maybe the next minute we will disqualify them, but that's not a problem. And therefore, he says that's what he thinks you should do. And we will later, I will hear the children, the 13-year-olds, they'll be mazim them, they'll make them disqualified, and then we will make those first witnesses puzzle, and that's what he says is the best idea we should do now.
So what did they used to do on the surrounding, to disseminate the information to farther neighborhoods?
Oh, how did they tell everyone that it was Rosh Chodesh?
So if they could have runners go to the different parts and say 3 days ago was Rosh Chodesh, so they know when Yom Kippur or Chag would be.
Right.
So it would be
they
3
used
days,
to have
5 days. They used to have the mountains and the trumpets or whatever,
right.
Fires.
So first they had to have fires. They would hold up a fire, and then the person on the next mountain would hold up a fire, and the next mountain, and they would send the message to the far out cities to say it's Rosh Chodesh. But then there were people who started coming along who aren't really part of the Torah.
With fires.
And they started their own fires.
Yeah, it's a problem.
And therefore they tried to make believe it was Rosh Chodesh, and they put up a fire. So therefore they instituted that we don't do these fires anymore. You have to send out real messengers. However long it takes, that's the best thing. So that's also here. Yes, that's what they said.
But in the case of first Tishrei, messengers wouldn't arrive on time.
That's a good point. So you have to see. So they actually, I believe they sent it out in 6 months. Yeah, there were 6 months when they sent out the new moon, and they did it actually for. It's a good point, because you're right. They had to know before.
But the Bet Din only was in Yerushalayim? I mean, there was in Tzfat there was a Bet Din.
Here it says there was 6 months when they went out. They went out Nisan, for Pesach of Elul. In Elul, they sent them out in Elul to know when Rosh Hashanah is. So he asked the question, although you don't know, maybe there will be 29 days in Elul, maybe there will be 30 days of Elul. How do you know when Rosh Hashanah will be? That's a good question. But they relied on the fact that Elul was almost always 29 days. And therefore, since it was 29 days, they could say 29 days later, the 30th day will be Rosh Hashanah. Okay.